this story I'm going to be reading tonight is a horror story. It's called Assistant, and the monster in this story is the social climate of the segregated South. During the Jim Crow era, it was a routine culture of rape, torture, kidnapping, and murder. And I've read this story different places. I've shopped it around, and people would sometimes tell me, oh, that doesn't seem realistic, oh, that seems overblown. And I really wish I could say it wasn't realistic. That's really the way it was. So it takes place in 1920. There is a young boy named Elijah who sometimes he sees children walking around and he doesn't know who their parents are. And they're sort of like strange kind of children. And a friend of his family has just died. He's going to the funeral at this point in the story. I'll read the end of chapter 1 and chapter 2. I got wings, you got wings, all God's children got wings. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my wings and gonna fly all over God's heaven. 5 days after he died, they moved Man-Boy to Cemetery Hill, a clearing of overgrown grass where the trees bowed their heads in mourning. The long procession clapped and shook tambourines, singing, I got shoes, you got shoes, all God's children got shoes. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my shoes and gonna walk all over God's heaven. Elijah sang along, walking between his brothers, David and Joe on his right, Thomas on the left, 2-year-old Simon in Mama's arms. Mama cried. Pa had his head down, silently praying. He'd thrown a terrible fit that morning because Cousin Cornbread wasn't home for the funeral, having spent another night playing guitar at the white beer halls in town. Elijah had heard Pa complain about the job the undertaker in town did on Man-Boy's body, as he could tell from the faint scent of decay hanging over the casket. At one point the body shifted, forcing a pallbearer to his knees. They reached Man-Boy's small tombstone. The pastor read out loud, Richard Johnson, born Feb 19, 1869, died May 5, 1920. The pastor said last rites. Elijah's mind wandered. He wanted to listen to Cornbread play guitar, or go fishing with his cousin. A subtle shift in the wind drew his gaze to the woods, where he saw a small boy heading into the trees. No surprise, he saw plenty of stray kids around Pagoda. But why was this one at the funeral? The sound of dirt thudding on Man-Boy's coffin snapped him from his reverie. The pallbearers shoveled it in, each clump crashing on the wood with finality. The setting sun turned the clouds to pink scars across the sky. Elijah hauled a pail of water from Watchaloo to his cabin. Pa always had him help Ma with the cooking like he was some girl. Elijah meant to complain about this, but not today. Not with the mood Pa was in. A sputtering noise like a bad cough startled him so bad he almost dropped the pail. A cloud of dust sped up the road toward him. Elijah had heard of automobiles, motorized wagons only white folk could afford. It was a monstrous-looking thing, all black and metal and spewing smoke. His first impulse was to run, but fear turned his legs to stone. The automobile slowed down with a noise like a death rattle. Elijah choked on its dust. 2 men sat on the leather seat. A straw-haired white man holding the crank, grinning at Elijah with a mouthful of jagged brown teeth. The other sat with a slouch hat over his eyes, and Elijah held his breath. The passenger lifted his hat, revealing a handsome, freckle-faced black man. Howdy, Elijah, said Cousin Cornbread. Shit, they making you do all that work? Elijah almost fell down in relief. Cornbread sang, Brother Elijah, strolling up that hill. Gonna carry a pail of water, soon he'll carry another. Carrying water till the sun go down. Ain't like I want to carry the water, said Elijah. The white man laughed and slapped his knee. This your little cousin you was talking about? He asked in a slow, croaky voice. This here be Elijah Craymark, town mischief maker. Cornbread hugged Elijah tight, squeezing a laugh out of him. His cousin seemed happy as always, though Elijah saw the dark circles under his foggy blue eyes. The white man took off his hat and made a grand bow. Pleased to meet you, Elijah, he said. He opened the trunk on the back of the automobile, pulled out a guitar and handed it to Cornbread. You gonna play again tonight, boy? Yes, sir, boss. Laughing, Cornbread slapped the man on the back. Elijah had never seen anybody act that way with a white man. The man beamed down at Elijah, his whiskey breath so strong you could light it on fire. "Don't you worry about your cousin. Long as he play at my place, he under my protection. Other night, Cornbread took me to see Ma B's girls. Sweetest nigger juice I ever had." He patted Elijah's head, and Elijah instinctively pressed against Cornbread's leg. "Maybe old Cornbread will take you someday, make a man out of you." Cornbread laughed, but not so quickly this time. The man got in his automobile, lit a corncob pipe with a match. "See you tonight, boy." "Yes, sir." Cornbread gave him a soldier's salute. The white man took off in his automobile, coughing and sputtering back to town. Cornbread ran a hand through Elijah's coarse hair. Pa always said he would get himself killed playing guitar in town. Elijah prayed for his cousin's safety every night before bed, and every morning Cornbread came back smiling. Cornbread started for the house, Elijah on his heels. "Let me carry that." Cornbread plucked the bucket from Elijah's arms and held like it weighed nothing. "They teach you to be strong in the army." "And I'll carry your guitar," said Elijah. He tried to snatch it from him, but Cornbread held it teasingly over his head. The boy thrust an accusing finger at Cornbread. "You wasn't at the funeral. You've been FFF all day." FFF is an old World War I term. It means frigged, fucked up, and far from home. "You FFF!" Cornbread lunged at him. Elijah dodged him, ran the circle around Cornbread until his cousin grabbed him in the crook of an arm, hauled him in the air, swinging him around until he felt dizzy. Cornbread let him down. "So your pa pretty mad at me, huh?" "Mm-hmm. You in trouble." "Let me guess. Your pa said something like this. 'I don't know what to do with that boy, Ann. I give him a place to sleep, and he ain't got the decency to go to man-boy's funeral. Jesus Christ in heaven." Elijah laughed so hard his sides hurt. "Do it again," he said. "Talk like him again." "I tell you, Elijah, after a while you get tired of going to funerals. I know what they like." "Was there women crying?" "Yep. One of man-boy's sisters was screaming and climbing all on the box, and they had to pull her off of it." "Did they sing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot?" "Did they read a passage out of Psalms?" John, I think." He didn't really pay attention to that part. "Man-boy stank, too." Now I'm real glad I didn't go. Ain't like old man-boy care whether I come. Funerals are for the living. The dead don't give a damn. On the cabin porch, Pa showed Elijah's older brothers how to nail a cabinet. Elijah wanted to learn the trade too, but Pa said he was too young. Elijah at least knew he'd do a better job than Joe. Joe couldn't even hold a hammer steady. "How come I always gotta help Mama?" he asked Cornbread. "I want to be with you. Teach me to play guitar." "Sure, Elijah. After you help your mama with the cooking. She needs a big, strong man helping with that. By the way, you might want to stow away that pipe I gave you before we get to the house." "I left it down at the creek." "I'll go get it."